Hey guys, tonight we begin somewhere dim, damp, and very, very cold. It's not the cold that bites your cheeks like in winter holiday commercials, but the kind that slides under your skin and settles in your bones. The kind that makes your teeth chatter even before you've woken up. You're not in your modern bed tonight. You're curled beneath a coarse wool blanket that smells faintly of wet dog and last season's turnips. Welcome to a 14th century winter morning, or as it's more accurately known, just morning. Your eyes blink open, half frozen shut. There's no sunrise glow, no coffee brewing, no warm floor under your feet. Just smoke, the low, scratchy kind. It creeps through the air from the hearth that went out sometime around midnight. There's no chimney, just a hole in the thatched roof above the hearth that lets the worst of the smoke out and the coldest air in. It's barely dawn, and already the chill is bruising your fingertips. The straw mattress under you rustles as you shift. It's full of little biting friends, fleas, bedbugs, the occasional beetle, all thriving in your family's shared bed. You, your mother, two younger brothers, and possibly a cat that wandered in for warmth, all lie side by side under a few shared blankets that barely do their job. The roof above leaks when the frost melts, which it rarely does. And the walls, wattle and daub, seem more decorative than protective today. Every breeze that passes outside seems to bring a little bit of itself in through the cracks. You don't need to check your breath to see it. It's visible already, a white mist rising each time you exhale. You don't have socks or underwear, just a rough linen shirt that has seen more winters than you have, layered under a coarser wool tunic. They've both absorbed every meal, sweat stain, and smoke scent from the last season, and still haven't been washed. Laundry isn't exactly a weekly affair, or monthly, or even seasonal. Washing means hauling icy water from the stream, breaking through the ice if needed, and scrubbing with lye that cracks your skin open. And it's not just the clothing that's seen better days. Your body, curled and stiff from a night on frozen straw, resists movement. Your joints creak like an old barn door, and there's a new ache in your shoulder that probably came from sleeping too close to the edge of the bed, where the warmth doesn't quite reach. Still you rise, or rather you try to. Your toes, bare of course, meet the packed earth floor, which is less floor and more indoor terrain. It's hard, uneven, and speckled with the remnants of last night's soot and ash. A rat scurries from the corner as your feet touch down. You don't flinch. That's just what mornings sound like here. There's no toilet to run to and no privacy to wish for. The chamber pot, shared, sits by the door, already teetering near full. You decide to wait until someone dumps it. You'll likely be the one to do it, actually tossing it into the communal trench outside that in theory drains away from the village but in practice doesn't. Your fingers fumble with the latch of the wooden door, warped and stubborn in the cold, and finally it groans open. Outside the world is painted in frost. Everything sparkles, the thatched roofs, the skeletal branches of the trees, the edge of the well, but none of it feels magical. The frost is not beauty here. It's hunger in disguise. It's another reminder that the crops are gone, the stores are thin, and the earth has rolled over into sleep, leaving you and your neighbors to fend for yourselves. You step out briefly, drawing your rough cloak tighter around your shoulders. It's more whole than fabric, but it cuts the wind a bit. The path to the well is slick. Ice glazes the ground. Somewhere nearby, a rooster coughs more than crows. It's too cold for enthusiasm. In the distance, You hear the bark of dogs and the low moan of cows waiting to be fed. Back inside, your mother stokes the hearth with the last bit of dry kindling. The warmth, when it finally comes, is modest. It hovers low, like a secret shared only with those close enough to touch the flames. You crouch near it, hands outstretched, watching your fingers shift from grey-blue to red. Breakfast, if you're lucky, is the last of the pottage, a thick, lumpy stew that's more water than anything else, reheated from the pot that's been sitting near the coals since yesterday. Or the day before that. There's no bread today. The last of the flour was used earlier in the week, and the rye loaf from the Lord's tithe was too coarse to chew by candlelight. It waits under a cloth, harder now than the oak door. You sip the warm brew. It's not delicious, but it's not poison either. That's good enough. Soon, your father will return from tending the animals, and the workday will begin. There's wood to scavenge, the legal kind from fallen branches only, and snares to check. You'll layer up in your one tunic, one cloak, one pair of boots so stiff you wonder if they were carved, not stitched. And all the while the cold will follow you. It nips at your fingers while you chop frozen beets. It seeps into your bones when you kneel to wash clothes in the icy basin. It never lets go, but for now you sit by the fire. It crackles softly. Your mother hums something old and low while tending the pot. Smoke rises to the rafters and lingers there, curling around the beams like it's trying to stay warm too. The day has barely begun. The fire gives off just enough heat to make leaving it feel like betrayal. You linger a moment longer, elbows resting on your knees, fingers outstretched, watching your breath puff out in pale clouds. But the work won't wait. Not today. Not ever. Outside, the frost glazes every surface like a warning. Even the wooden latch on the door bites at your fingers. You tuck your hands into your sleeves and push it open. The early sun, such as it is, hasn't broken the cloud cover. The sky hangs low and grey, threatening snow, but offering none yet. Just enough dampness in the air to make your joints complain. The ground crunches beneath your boots as you make your way to the shed. It's not a proper shed, more a lean-to held together by willpower and rope. The stack of firewood inside is pitiful. 3 half-frozen logs and some damp twigs. Enough for half the day, maybe. You know that later you'll have to trudge into the edge of the forest to scavenge more fallen branches, careful not to be seen dragging anything too thick, too valuable, too likely to draw the Manor Reeve's attention. Collecting wood is a game of survival and legality. Forests are the Lord's domain. Cutting trees can cost you coin, or worse, time in the stocks. So you become a crow, picking at what the wind knocks down and the snow forgets to bury. For now, you grab what's left, stack it in your arms and shuffle back toward the cottage. Your younger brother greets you with a blank expression, face flushed from smoke and cold, holding out a bucket. "Water," he says, voice small. You nod. Everyone has a task. Yours is water. The well sits just beyond the frozen path that runs through the village centre. A few other families are already there, shapes hunched under cloaks, faces hidden, breath clouding the air like smoke signals. You join them in silence, nodding to old Martin, who's already pulled his bucket and is muttering about wolves again. Whether he's seen one or just wants an excuse not to go hunting, no one bothers to ask. The rope is stiff with ice. You wrap it once around your raw hands, then lower the bucket slowly. It hits the water with a dull splash, echoing up from the depths. You wince as the wind finds the gap between your collar and your neck. The water smells of iron and chill. When you haul the bucket back up, the rim is already frosting over. Back home, you set it down by the hearth. The water will be used sparingly. To thin the pottage, rinse hands before prayers, maybe even clean a rag later if someone bleeds again. Not for drinking, not really. The ale barrel sits in the corner, low but still good for now. Water is for chores, weak ale is for survival. By now your father's returned. His boots are caked in frozen manure. The animals, 2 goats, a pig, 3 chickens and a cow that everyone pretends is still producing milk, have been seen to. They live in the same building as you, of course, just separated by a wooden partition and a hope that the smell doesn't seep all the way through. It always does. You help bring straw for their bedding. It's less about comfort, more about keeping their breath from freezing inside their lungs. The animals are your insurance policy, your future meals, and, in the cow's case, your only chance at a decent bowl of milk if spring ever arrives. You pat the goat on the flank. She shivers against you. Then it's off to the field, such as it is. The ground is too hard to till, but snare lines need checking. The traps you and your father set near the edge of the woods haven't caught anything in days. Maybe a hare? Maybe, if you're lucky. You dream of rabbit stew some nights. Even stringy meat sounds divine. You cross the field slowly, crunching over frozen earth. The path winds past other huts, all of them smoke-streaked and bent under the weight of frost. You spot Agnes, your neighbour, her arms full of kindling and children. She nods. No words exchanged. There's a shared understanding in winter. Conserve your breath, save your voice for when it matters. By the time you reach the tree line, the wind has picked up. It sneaks past your collar again, finding skin like a thief in the night. You drop to one knee, checking the first snare, empty. The second, sprung, but no catch. The third, snapped. You sigh and reset it with numb fingers, wincing as your nail beds tingle. Your father says little, but his eyes squint at the grey sky. Snow by sundown, he mutters. You both know what that means. Less light, colder nights, heavier boots. The return walk is slower. Your boots, already stiff, begin to chafe. You can't remember the last time your feet weren't either wet or frozen. You consider stopping to rest, but push on. There's no point in getting comfortable. Not here. Not now. Back at the cottage, your mother has the pottage simmering again. The smell is earthy, plain, mostly water and cabbage today. A sliver of onion, maybe a hint of salt if she's feeling generous. You sit by the fire, holding your hands out once more, and your sister offers a smile so quick it almost doesn't count. Dinner is quiet. No feasting, no stories, just the sound of chewing and the occasional creak of the stool beneath your uncle's weight. He's older, barely speaks, but his eyes never stop watching the fire. When the sun disappears, and if it was ever out at all, you light the rushlight, a bit of dried reed dipped in tallow. It sputters and hisses, barely lighting the space. You take turns kneeling near it to fix a torn shirt, inspect a blister, or just stare at something not made of ice or smoke. Eventually you curl back onto the straw mattress. The fleas have not left. The cold has not either. The blanket settles over you like a reminder of everything it cannot do. Outside, the wind howls against the doorframe. Inside, someone coughs. No one stirs. It's winter in your world, and there's nowhere else to be. You're outside again, hands rough with cold, breath curling like a whisper around your face. The chores blend into one another, water hauling, wood gathering, checking traps, scraping ice from the inside of the window cloth. Time moves differently here. The sun, when visible, barely lifts from the horizon before it starts sinking again. And the light, always grey, plays tricks on your eyes. Is it midday or closer to dusk? You're never quite sure. Today, you're assigned to the field edge to dig shallow ditches meant to carry meltwater come spring. The work is exhausting and mostly pointless. The ground is too hard. Your spade bounces off it more than it cuts. Still you keep digging, scraping a few inches here, widening a groove there. It's not really about progress. It's about proving you're still able to move. Your gloves, Scraps of stitched leather are stiff and useless. The cold gets in anyway. You trade them out for a strip of wool wrapped around your fingers, which at least lets you feel the handle, not that you want to. Each jolt from the spade sends a ripple of pain into your wrist, up your elbow. Your shoulder's been sore since last week when you tried to split a half-frozen log and the axe bounced back like it had struck stone. Still, you don't stop. No one does. There's no such thing as a rest day when the food is running out and the winter shows no signs of kindness. Even the little ones help, fetching straw, sweeping the floor with a bundle of reeds, peeling the smallest carrots you've ever seen for stew. Your mother tends to the goat's hooves by the doorway. She kneels in the snow, barehanded, muttering under her breath about rot. You know she'll rub garlic on the crack in the hoof and bind it with linen. You also know it probably won't work, but it's something to do. Doing nothing is dangerous here. It lets thoughts in. Your sister coughs again. She's been coughing for days now. At first it was soft, infrequent, but now it has the bark of something that doesn't want to leave. You all ignore it, not because you don't care, but because acknowledging illness feels like inviting it to stay. No one talks about the last time a cough like that passed through the village. It was 5 winters ago, 6 houses emptied by spring. Your uncle lost a daughter. The baker's wife never spoke again. You were too young then to understand, but old enough to remember the smell of smoke and wet earth at the burial mound. When the bell rings, not a clock bell, but the dull clang of a pan against a hook, it's time for the evening meal. You put your spade down, wipe your nose with the back of your sleeve, and make your way back, every joint complaining. You're hungry, but not with excitement. It's the kind of hunger that's never quite gone, just quieter sometimes. Inside, the warmth feels weaker than earlier. The fire has dipped low, and the rushlight sputters as it burns closer to its end. Your mother ladles out the evening stew. It's the same as the mornings, only thinner, stretched with more water and less anything else. A floating scrap of beetroot, a few peas. Surprises now. Your father gnaws on a heel of bread so hard it might double as a tool. Conversation is limited, not because there's nothing to say, but because saying it changes nothing. The snow hasn't come yet, but it will. The food won't last, but you hope it will. Your sister's cough is worse, but you pretend it isn't. After dinner, you help sweep the floor. It's not about cleanliness, it's about control, finding something to smooth, straighten, fix, even when nothing else can be. The wind outside has begun to rise. You feel it around the doorframe. It whines like a creature begging to come in. Your father nails an extra board across the window cloth. It won't help much, but it's louder than the silence. Then it's time for the feet. Your mother fills a basin near the fire, just a little warm water, barely enough to mist. Each child, in turn, pulls off their boots, revealing pale, swollen feet. She rubs them with tallow, wraps them in linen strips. It's more ritual than remedy, but it keeps frostbite from setting in too deep. You go last, hiding your heel. The skin's cracked there, oozing a bit. She notices, of course, but says nothing. She just wraps it tighter. When the last child is swaddled and the fire rebuilt, everyone prepares for sleep. There's no turning down the bed, no changing clothes, no brushing teeth, just lying back on the shared straw mat, drawing the same wool blanket up, shoulders to ears, trying not to shiver too obviously. You lie still, eyes open, your sister's breath whistles in the dark. The wind taps at the shutters like bony fingers. The warmth you gathered by the fire is fading fast. You roll onto your side, knees tucked into your chest, and wait for sleep to come. It will. Eventually, it always does. Not because you're ready, but because your body is too tired to argue anymore. Outside, the frost creeps. Morning returns like a whisper through the frost. You didn't sleep so much as drift in and out. your ears filled with the sounds of breathing, snoring, and an occasional murmur from someone dreaming. A soft, low cough punctuated the silence more than once. Your sister again. Her breath comes shallow now, whistling slightly through her nose. You pretend not to notice as you roll out from under the shared blanket. The floor bites your feet like always. You shuffle to the hearth and coax the fire back to life with the coals your mother buried under ash the night before. It's not warm yet, not even close, but it gives the illusion of life. That's something. Your first chore today takes you beyond your hut. Bread is needed, or at least what passes for it. You carry a cloth-wrapped bundle of barley flour and a handful of dried herbs to the communal oven, tucked near the village edge beneath a sagging timber awning. It's always colder here. The stone oven looks like a hunched beast in the snow, smoke trickling from its mouth. Old Martin is already there, as always, hunched beside the fire pit, poking at embers and muttering to himself. You offer him a nod and wait your turn. Bread is rationed by need and by favor. You've been polite to his granddaughter. That helps. When your flat, round loaf is set in the hot ash, you crouch beside the oven and soak in the warmth like a stray dog. Around you, the village begins to stir. A boy drags a sack of oats toward the feed store. 2 girls gather rushes near the well, hands red and raw. The blacksmith's door is propped open, not for customers, just to let out some of the smoke. He hasn't had real iron to work with in months, mostly repairs now, pot handles, bent hinges, the dull work of people too poor to buy new and too tired to go without. There's little conversation. Voices carry in the cold and everyone guards their words like they're firewood. You gather your bread and head back. It's heavy, flat, and already going stiff. You tear a piece off for your sister. The crust is sharp enough to cut the roof of your mouth, but she chews slowly, grateful. Her color isn't good. Pale, but flushed at the cheeks. You hope it's from the fire. You pretend it is. Mid-morning brings a different sort of task, one tied more to ritual than necessity. Your mother prepares the prayer corner. It's a small space, a rough wooden shelf with a carved cross, a cracked beeswax candle stub, and a linen cloth stitched long ago with fading red thread. She sweeps the hearth, dusts the shelf with care, and lights the candle with a taper held against the fire. You kneel beside her, not because you're devout, not really, but because this is what you do. This is how you hold on to order when the world is falling apart outside the walls. The prayers are whispered, softly, like they might break if spoken aloud. She murmurs for warmth, for food, for strength, for the cough to go away. Her voice catches at that part. You say nothing, just bow your head and breathe through the scent of beeswax and smoke. By midday, the sky's darkening again, snow this time, real snow. Slow, fat flakes drifting like ash. It's quieting, beautiful in a way. It settles over the village like a blanket no one asked for, muting the world. With the snow comes stillness, and with stillness, barter. A neighbor arrives, Ralph, the thatcher's son. Boots heavy with slush, carrying a bundle of rabbit pelts over one shoulder. He needs onions and you still have some. Your mother sends you to handle the trade. You meet at the edge of the path near the fence post that never stands straight. He grunts a greeting and you hold out the bundle. 2 soft, withered bulbs wrapped in cloth. He inspects them, then hands over the smallest pelt, rough but clean. It'll line a boot, maybe a glove. There's a pause before he speaks again. "Snow'll stay," he says. You nod. He glances toward your cottage, toward the thin trail of smoke rising from your roof. "Your sister," he begins, then stops. You don't answer. He nods again, and that's enough. That's how grief begins in winter. Not with wailing or speeches, but with shared silence, a glance too long, a sentence left unfinished. Back home, your mother hangs the pelt near the fire. "Good trade," she says. You don't correct her. The afternoon drags and the snow keeps falling. You chop kindling, your knuckles bleeding now from the cold. You wrap them in cloth, not to heal, but to hide. The children huddle together under the blanket, whispering stories you can't hear. Supper is warm, barely. The same pottage, new day. The bread has gone from hard to harder. Your father cracks it open with the side of a blade, steam escaping like a ghost. No one laughs, but the warmth is welcome. As night falls, the world disappears into white. There is no horizon, no stars, just the sound of the wind, the crackle of fire, and the constant, relentless cold. You lie down, and the blanket feels thinner than ever. Your sister curls beside you, her breath shallow, but still there, for now. By morning, the world outside your door has vanished. The snow fell through the night, and when you wake, if you can call that brittle stretch of darkness sleep, it's already past your ankles. Inside the cottage, the light filters in as a pale blue haze through the tiny gaps near the roof. The air is thick, still, like the whole village is holding its breath. You rise slowly, peeling yourself from the warm side of the bed, careful not to disturb your sister. Her fever has worsened. Her skin is damp, and the cough that racked her yesterday now sounds like a kettle about to boil. Still she stirs when you move. A sign of life. You take it. The hearth is mostly ash. You coax a spark with what's left of the dry kindling and a piece of dried goat dung. It smokes more than burns, but heat is heat. Your mother joins you, rubbing her arms, eyes already on the door. When your father opens it, snow piles in like a guest uninvited. The drift reaches up to his knees. He mutters a curse, then grabs the shovel. A splintered, hand-carved thing you all pretend is still sturdy, and starts carving a path to the well. It's the only place the snow must never win. Water, for all its dangers, still sustains. You follow, boots crunching, breath ragged. Each shovelful is a battle. The snow is wet and heavy, clinging like regret. It clogs the spade and soaks your sleeves, but there's no choice. The well must be reached, and the paths to the goats and the latrine must be cleared unless you want to live buried. Other villagers are out too, all shovels and slumped shoulders, wrapped in rags and resolve. You spot Greta, whose husband lost 3 fingers last frost. She drags her daughter behind her like a shadow. She nods once, eyes rimmed red from cold or exhaustion or both. The village is nearly silent, save for the scrape of wood on stone, the soft collapse of snowbanks and the occasional wheeze of breath. Words are a luxury. Energy must be saved. By mid-morning, you're soaked to the bone. You wring out your sleeves by the hearth while your mother stirs a bowl of porridge thinned so far it barely clings to the spoon. You don't complain. Warm liquid is still a gift. After the snow is cleared, your father decides to check the thatch. Ice can tear it down if it gets too heavy. You join him, climbing the ladder rung by frozen rung. The wind bites harder up here, open to the sky. You brush snow from the peak, knock icicles from the eaves, and pat the sod with your gloved hands, checking for soft spots. It's terrifying in its own way. High up, exposed, but necessary. The roof holds your life in it. Back on the ground, you split the loaf you baked yesterday. It's already tough and chewy, but you gnaw through it, warming your hands by the fire. Midday is spent indoors. The snow traps you. Outside it drifts. Inside, time thickens. You patch holes in your cloak. Your mother scrubs a shirt at the basin with a bit of lye and ash, hands cracked and red. Your youngest brother plays with a stick, pretending it's a sword. He laughs once. Everyone looks up. It sounds foreign. Your sister sleeps fitfully. Her breath rattles now like something shaking loose inside her. You tuck the blanket tighter around her and place your own cloak over her, knowing it will leave you colder tonight. But it's not a choice. The wind moans at the window boards as evening settles in, drawing long shadows across the room. Your father reads from a bit of parchment, a psalm perhaps, his voice low, gravelly, echoing oddly against the wooden walls. You eat early. Just stew. No bread left. The last scraps of dried carrot and some wild garlic from the bundle hidden near the roof. Afterward, you share a silence by the fire that feels deeper than sleep. You watch the flame, its slow dance reflected in your sister's closed eyes. You say nothing. The wind howls louder now. The snow has started again. You lie down, back aching, legs still shivering. The blanket is damp. Your feet itch. And the cold, it waits, always, just beyond the reach of firelight. But still you sleep, because you must, because tomorrow will come, and it will not be kind. The fire is out again, not completely, not yet, but it's more memory than flame. You wake to the smell of cold ash and the stiff ache in your hips that means you didn't move much in the night. Your blanket is twisted around your legs like a curse, and the straw beneath you feels wet. It might be. It rained last night, snow melting then freezing again, seeping through the roof in slow, silent drips. Your first thought is not about the weather or the chores, it's about your sister. You sit up slowly, carefully, as not to shake the fragile quiet of morning, and turn toward her place beside the fire. She's there, still breathing, but it's thin, like thread unraveling. Your mother's already kneeling beside her, a cloth soaked in broth against her lips. She drank, she murmurs, not looking up. Not much. You want to ask if she's better, but the answer's obvious. So you press your lips together, nod, and go to fetch more firewood. There's almost none left. 3 branches, split too thin, and a few sodden bits of bark. You glance at the ceiling. No smoke means no drying means no fire, and no fire. You grab your cloak and step outside. The snow has stopped. In its place is a frozen mist, a curtain of air so thick it dulls the sound of your own boots. You move through it slowly, steps careful. Trees loom like ghosts. You find the bundle where you left it yesterday. A few twigs gathered under the eaves of the smith's house. Not much, but something. You drag it home with numb fingers. Inside, your father has stripped the hearth down to its bones, raked the coals into a little hollow, and is coaxing it like it's a sick child. You offer the twigs and he doesn't speak, just nods once, adding them carefully one by one. There's a hiss, a faint crackle, a flicker of life. The warmth spreads like a secret, first to your knees, then to your chest. You hold your hands over it, not daring to get too close, as if you'll spook it. Outside, the village is shifting into motion. You hear a cartwheel snap against the frozen mud, followed by a string of curses from the tanner. You hear a baby cry briefly, then go quiet. You hear the distant call of the bell. Not church, not market, just old Martin trying to sell a dead chicken again. Some things never change. You're sent to the woods again by midday, not for wood this time, but for moss and bark, anything that might help seal the cracks in the roof above your sister's bed. The sky is the colour of unbaked bread, thick and low. Snow threatens again. You move fast. You gather what you can, stuffing it into your cloak. Tree bark, dry grass, bits of pine you hope won't spark. Anything that might help. Back home, you climb the ladder with a bag of moss in one hand and a prayer in the other. You patch the worst leaks, your fingers stiff and slick with sap. Below you hear coughing again, 2 coughs this time. Your sister. And your mother. That evening, dinner is nothing. A bowl of hot water with a sliver of turnip. The broth has no flavour, but it's warm, and that is enough. The wind picks up again. You all huddle near the fire, closer than usual. Your father doesn't speak. He just sits with his head in his hands. Your mother's eyes are red. "From smoke," she says, "but you know better." Later, after the fire has burned low, you sit awake while the others sleep. Your sister stirs beside you, whispering a word you don't catch. Her hand finds yours in the dark. You squeeze it, lightly. She doesn't squeeze back, but her breathing steadies. And that, tonight, is a mercy. The day begins with silence. Not the peaceful kind, but the thick, slow kind that hangs over your cottage like an omen. Even the wind seems hesitant, whispering against the window boards like it's testing whether today is worth the effort. You roll from the mat, your back popping faintly in protest. The fire has gone out again. It's not a surprise anymore. Just another small betrayal from the long night. You rub your eyes and sit up. Your sister is still breathing, barely audible, but it's there. You hold on to that. Your mother is already moving, not quickly, Sathin. Nothing happens quickly in this weather, but steadily. She pulls down the bundle from the rafters. Herbs, dried and tied in string. You know the smell before she unwraps it. Thyme, sage, and wild marigold, gathered back in summer when the world had colour and scent. She boils them in water fetched before dawn. The cottage fills with the sharp, earthy steam. It clings to your clothes and hair, seeping into your skin like hope. She pours the brew into a wooden cup and sits beside your sister, coaxing her to sip. The girl takes barely a mouthful, her lips barely part. The steam curls upward and disappears. You head outside for more wood, more because it gives you something to do than because you expect to find much. The pile behind the cottage is nearly gone. Only damp bark and one half-rotten log remain. You take it anyway. Down the road, Greta waves you over. She holds out a bundle, something wrapped in wool. "Roots," she says, "boiled and mashed for the girl." You take it wordlessly, nodding your thanks. Greta's husband stands behind her, expression unreadable, holding a hatchet loosely at his side. You exchange glances. It's not a threat, just the way winter makes everyone look. Back home, you add Greta's roots to the pot. The mash is thick and bitter. You've eaten worse. Later, the reeve passes by. A rare visit. He doesn't enter, just calls from the road. A wolf was seen near the forest edge, a lean, desperate thing pacing like it's trying to remember what not to be afraid of. The reeve wants traps, checked, and livestock moved closer. You nod, promise to spread the word. Your father sharpens a stick into a spear. He says nothing while he works. The scrape of metal against stone is sharp, rhythmical, almost soothing if it didn't sound so much like preparation. Midday comes with weak light and weak broth. Everyone is quieter than usual. Your sister doesn't eat. Your mother wipes her forehead with cloth soaked in snowmelt. She needs to sweat it out, she says. You wish she didn't say it aloud, as if naming the illness gives it more power. After lunch, or whatever you call a few sips of flavoured water, you help your brother mend a tear in his cloak. The thread is coarse and your stitches are clumsy, but he grins when you finish. That grin, missing 2 teeth and crusted with soot, feels like sunlight for a moment. You check the animal pen next. The goats are quiet, pressed together for warmth. The cow's eyes are glassy, but she chews slowly as always. The chickens barely move. You gather one last egg from under a hen and carry it like a treasure. That night, your mother cracks the egg into broth. The best you've had in weeks. She gives most of it to your sister. You watch her lips part. She swallows, just once. A win. The wind howls outside, stronger now. The trees groan. The thatch above you rustles ominously. A corner of it lifts slightly, and snow dusts your shoulder from the inside. You climb up again with frozen fingers and press moss into the gaps, anchoring it with fist-sized stones. Each gust nearly topples you. You cling to the peak of the roof like a bird on a branch, hoping not to be blown off. When you come back down, your hands are too numb to unlace your boots. Your mother helps you silently. By the fire, she rubs garlic into your palms, not because it heals, but because it warms, because someone told her once it drove off illness, because what else is there? You sleep that night wrapped in your cloak, side pressed to your sister's back. She murmurs again in her sleep. Her hand finds yours, just for a moment, then slides away. The fire crackles low, the storm outside builds, and you dream of spring, though you don't believe in it. Not yet. You wake to the smell of burned straw. Not fire, not danger, just the bitter tang of something scorched too close to the coals. Your mother must have knocked a broom handle into the hearth again. It happens sometimes. You sit up slowly, limbs stiff from sleeping in the same position all night, and brush a fine layer of ash from your shoulder. The fire is down to its last glow. You stir it with a stick, blow gently, then add a handful of dried moss. It hisses, curls inward, then flares just enough to give the illusion of life. You add a splinter of wood, your last one, and watch it catch, like it's doing you a favor. Your sister is quieter this morning. Not better, just quieter. Her breath is shallower, but her brow is cooler. You press the back of your hand to her forehead. It's damp. Could be fever breaking, could be something else. You don't ask. Outside, the snow has settled in deep drifts that stretch across the village like frozen waves. The fence posts look like broken teeth. The footpaths are buried. Even the trees seem to sag with the weight of it all. The bell rings again. The sharp clang of iron on iron. Not Martin this time. It's the village warden. You know that sound. It means a death. You and your father step outside, boots crunching against new snow. A few other villagers are already gathering near the well. The reeve stands beside a sled, something wrapped in linen, tied down tight. No one asks who. The shape beneath the cloth is too small. The answer is already in the silence. Someone begins a prayer, voice thin in the cold. You lower your head. The prayer is familiar, one you've heard at every funeral since you were old enough to understand why people sometimes disappeared after a long cough or a quiet night. Afterward, the sled is pulled down toward the churchyard. The burial won't be deep. The ground is too hard. Just enough to keep the wolves away. You return home and sit by the fire. No one speaks for a while. Your mother scrubs a pot that doesn't need scrubbing. Your brother sits with his head tucked to his knees. The weight of winter is no longer just cold. It's the sag of every movement, the pause before every word. Later that day, you're sent to the priest's cottage to fetch more candles. The last rushlight burned itself into nothing last night, and there are no tallow scraps left to make new ones. The priest is an old man with cracked lips and a voice like a crow. He lets you in with a nod, no words exchanged. The cottage is warmer than yours, just barely. He has a brick hearth and thicker shutters. You envy that. He hands you a small bundle, 4 stubby candles, their edges rough and hand-dipped. Use them sparingly, he says, as if you wouldn't. He eyes you for a long moment. And pray. You nod. On your way out, you pass the altar. A wooden plank nailed against the wall with a carved crucifix and a bundle of dried rosemary. Someone left a coin beside it. The glint of copper in the firelight almost makes you forget yourself. You look away. At home, the candles are rationed. Only one is lit just after dark, while your mother tends to your sister. The soft glow dances across the beams, casting long, thin shadows that shiver with every breath of wind. Dinner is a stew made with marrow bones, scraped hollow, weeks ago. The flavor comes from time and desperation. It's not bad, it's just thin, like everything else. Afterwards, your father sharpens a few sticks, makeshift spears for guard duty. There are rumors of wolves closer than usual. You hear them some nights, calling out beyond the trees. Their cries rise and fall like questions no one can answer. You wrap your arms around your legs and sit by the hearth, your eyes stinging from smoke and weariness. You watch your mother as she brushes your sister's hair with a comb, missing half its teeth. A small thing, gentle, ritual maybe. When the candle burns to half its height, you blow it out. You lie back, staring into the ceiling rafters. You count the cracks in the thatch, the beams, the flicker of the last ember in the hearth. Sleep doesn't come quickly, but it always comes eventually. Before your eyes close, you hear a whisper beside you. "She's cooler?" Your mother says. "I think the fever's breaking." You don't answer. Just close your eyes and let the silence stretch long and wide. And for the first time in days, the quiet doesn't feel like a warning. It feels like, maybe, you've stopped counting the days. At first, winter passed like a countdown. To the feast of St. Martin, then Advent, then Christmas. But now, somewhere in the slow slide between January and Lent, time no longer moves in dates, but in patterns. The soft crunch of boots across packed snow, the hiss of moss tossed onto coals, the flicker of candlelight against a wall you know too well. It's been many nights since your sister first fell ill. And now her breath is steadier. Her lips are dry but pink again, her eyes open longer. She doesn't speak much, but she looks at you now. Really looks. That's enough. The fever has retreated, leaving her fragile and gaunt, but not gone. Your mother gives thanks with quiet gestures, hanging a fresh cloth by the prayer corner, placing a dry herb bundle on the beam above the door. She hums again while she works, low, wordless, rhythmic, like a song she used to know but now only remembers the shape of. Your brother builds small figurines from kindling scraps. Little goats, chickens, stick people with no arms. They clutter the hearth edge like frozen villages of their own. He names them under his breath. You smile. There's no sun again today, just light filtered through grey. You trudge to the well and back twice before noon. The water comes up slushy, sloshing with bits of ice, and your arms ache by the second bucket. The villagers have begun to share again. Greta brings you dried mushrooms, tough and leathery, but edible. In return, your mother sends her a corner of the bread crust soaked in onion water. No one measures value, just need. Old Martin stops by too, not with eggs this time, but with a piece of wax cloth. "For the leek," he says, pointing up toward your roof. You take it, nod, and offer him your last apple. Small and shriveled, but still sweet. He doesn't smile, but he holds it in both hands before walking away. Later that afternoon, the snow stops. You all step outside, squinting at the brightness. The sky has softened. Light spills across the roofs, and for the first time in weeks you see the trees not as silhouettes, but as things alive. Brown and grey, yes, but standing, not just surviving. Your father carves a shallow cross into the snow near the door. A blessing, a marker. "Feast day soon," he says. You'd almost forgotten. St. Bridget's Day, not a feast in food, but in fire, a small celebration of midwinter, the turning point, a promise of return. Maybe. That night, your mother lights 2 candles instead of 1. You eat broth, thickened with lentils, saved from before the frost. Your sister sips it slowly, then leans back with her eyes closed. The heat brings color to her cheeks. You rub your fingers together and find warmth between them. After the meal, your father tells a story. His voice is rough, not from age, but from disuse. You sit in the glow, listening to the tale of a bear that slept so long it woke in spring and thought the world had ended. The children laugh softly. Even your mother chuckles once. Your sister smiles, not wide, not long, but enough. You sleep that night with a fuller belly and a blanket that feels heavier, somehow, not because of the wool, because of hope. Outside, the wind stirs gently. And somewhere in the darkness, you begin to believe that the season might eventually end. It begins with a drip. You hear it before you see it. A slow, steady tapping from the corner beam where the roof meets the wall. It's not a leak, not yet, but a thaw. A signal, a sound that has no place in the deep heart of winter. You sit up slowly, sore from the usual stiffness, and listen again. There, tap, tap, a thin trickle running down the outer thatch, slipping over the waxed cloth old Martin gave you. Outside, the snow is not gone, but softened. Its crust no longer cracks beneath your boots. Now it sags, it holds your weight just enough to make walking treacherous. Still you venture out, not to fetch water, but to feel the air. It smells different, faintly earthy, damp. The scent of old leaves and frozen roots waking up beneath layers of white. You glance skyward. The clouds have thinned, their edges ragged and pale. The sun, though still distant and cold, is visible, a round, watchful eye above the village. You let the light fall on your face, not for warmth, but for proof. Back inside, the mood has shifted. No one says it aloud, but the silence has changed. Less dread, more caution, the kind of pause people make before they step onto a frozen lake that might not hold. Your sister eats now, not much, but enough. She sips broth without prompting. She reaches for your hand without drifting back into sleep. Your mother catches your gaze across the room and lifts her eyebrows in the smallest nod. Not a smile, not yet, but approval. That morning, your father announces you'll clean. Not a deep cleaning, you don't waste water on that, but a shaking out of mats, a stirring of corners. The broom sweeps away old soot. Blankets are beaten and refolded. The walls are wiped with a rag dipped in vinegar and herbs. Fresh start, he mutters. You pull the shutters open for a while, letting in air that doesn't smell entirely of smoke and animals. Your fingers go numb quickly, but still, the room brightens. Your brother finds a bit of green near the base of the goat pen. Moss, soft and stubborn. He carries it in, cradled like treasure, and your mother places it on the prayer shelf beside the fading candle stub. The stew that evening tastes different. Not richer, not fuller, but sharper. Your mother added vinegar and thyme. The flavor is so strong it makes you blink. Afterward, your father sits with his tools. He sharpens the blade of the spade, checks the wooden handles of the rake and hoe. Too soon, he says, mostly to himself. But not far. The idea of digging feels foreign. The idea of dirt that isn't frozen. Of planting, even if it won't sprout for weeks. That night, after the fire is banked, your sister sits up in bed and whispers a story to your brother. Something about a squirrel that lost its tail and had to knit a new one from feathers and string. He laughs so hard he wheezes, and she laughs too, which turns into a cough, but even that doesn't break the moment. You watch them, wrapped in a blanket too thin for two, and realize your chest is warm in a way that has nothing to do with fire. Later, you lie on your back, and listen. There is no wind tonight, no wolf howl. Just the slow tick of thawing drops outside the door and the rhythmic breath of a cottage full of sleepers. You close your eyes, imagining roots shifting beneath the ground, waiting for the right moment. And for the first time, you don't dream of spring. You expect it. Your joints ache before you even rise, not sharply, not like injury, but deep, a dull stiffness that settles in your bones like it belongs there. You rub your knees and stretch your back, wincing as each vertebra snaps back into place. It's warmer today, or maybe just less cruel. The floor doesn't feel like ice, and your breath doesn't linger in the air quite as long. Outside, the snow has begun to pucker and sink in spots. The shapes of old paths re-emerge as shallow depressions in the slush. Your father sends you to the garden plot, not to dig, the soil is still frozen, but to clear what snow remains to let the sun touch it. He hands you a hoe with a cracked handle and tells you to mind the edges. The ground is waking slowly, and disturbing it too soon could do more harm than good. You work in slow, methodical swipes. The snow is crusted with dirt and straw, riddled with the bones of last year's weeds. You scrape it aside and find dark earth beneath, hard as stone but promising. Your brother helps, his hands small but eager. You show him how to move with the curve of the soil, not against it. Like brushing a sleeping dog, you say. He grins. Inside, your mother tends to the cloths. She boils what can be spared, beats them against a flat stone by the stream that's begun to trickle again. Her fingers are raw and pink, but she hums louder today, a tune with shape and rhythm. Your sister sits by the fire, upright. She braids a length of old twine between her fingers, making patterns she used to know by heart. Her color is better now, cheeks pink, lips no longer cracked. The cough comes only once or twice today. The goats are louder too. They butt the gate with their horns, restless. The cow lets out a low, dusty moan as your father brushes ice from her flanks. "Soon," he mutters. "Soon you'll eat more than bark and hay." The reeve comes by in the afternoon, carrying word from the manor. The serfs will be needed to clear the ditches and check the mill stream. No sowing yet, just preparation. You listen quietly, nodding at his orders. His face is red from wind, but his voice is firmer now, as though the land listens to him again. Later, while your father's sharpening tools, you find a pair of your old shoes, ones you'd outgrown last summer. The leather is stiff, but the stitching still holds. You place them beside your brother's bed. He finds them before supper and gasps like he's been handed treasure. That night, the pot holds a thicker stew, lentils, garlic, a scrap of dried meat your mother had hidden in a cloth pouch. "Feast day," she says, though it's not. The date's uncertain, but no one questions it. You eat slowly, savoring every bite. After dinner, your father speaks of planting. Barley first, then beans. You listen with half your mind, the other lost in the glow of the fire. Your mother leans back, eyes closed, feet stretched out. For once, no one is moving. No one is coughing. The silence is not hollow, it is full like a held breath. Before sleep, your sister leans against you. Her head on your shoulder is light, but solid. "Will the flowers come?" she whispers. You nod. They always do. Outside, the frost is no longer sharp. It's soft now, breaking apart underfoot, turning clear where footsteps press it down. You fall asleep, thinking not of survival, but of what to do when the earth opens up again. And for the first time, the cold does not feel eternal. The thaw brings more than water. It brings aches, strange ones. Your arms, your back, even the soles of your feet, all tender in new ways. It's as though the cold that numbed you for so long is letting go, but not gently. You stretch each limb slowly in the half-light of dawn, blinking at the dust motes dancing above the hearth. Your mother's already awake, sweeping with short, careful strokes. She's humming again. That same lilt you couldn't name if asked. It seems to change each day now, brightening like the air itself. She pauses when she sees you stirring and offers a small nod, a silent good morning. Your sister sits up without help today. She coughs only once as she leans against the low wall by the animals' stall. Her eyes are clearer. She holds a needle, threading bits of frayed wool into a patch for her cloak. You want to cheer. Instead, you hand her your own to mend next. Her grin says everything. Your father announces he'll walk to the mill pond today. See if the wheel still turns beneath the thaw. He takes his walking stick, more for ice than age, and laces his boots tighter than usual. You offer to go with him, but he shakes his head. Your turn to keep the fire alive. You understand? Keeping the fire going is more than a chore. It's a sign. A way to tell the cold that it no longer owns this house, so you fetch wood from the last corner of the shed. The logs are dry, lighter now. You stack them carefully by the hearth, feeding them one at a time. The flames rise strong, not desperate. A steady burn, not a flickering plea. The house warms faster than usual. Outside, water drips steadily from every eave and corner. It pools in muddy hollows and runs down the center of the footpath like a thin ribbon. The sound fills the village. Drip, drip, trickle, a soft music after weeks of silence and storm. Children appear again. They hop from rock to rock, pretending the ground is lava. One girl falls in the slush and shrieks, not from pain, but from surprise. Laughter follows. It echoes between cottages like a forgotten hymn. Greta visits before midday, bringing a handful of turnips and something wrapped in a kerchief. Dried berries, hard as stones, but sweet once softened in water. You trade her a patch of mended wool and one of your brother's carved chickens. She calls it a fair trade and ruffles his hair before leaving. He beams for the rest of the morning. At the edge of the day, your father returns. He smells of wet bark and pond water. The wheel moves, he says. Sluggish, but alive. It's the best news he's brought home all winter. The animals are more lively too. The goats bleat and tug at their ropes. The cow even kicks once when brushed, too firmly. Your brother pretends she's a dragon, and you let him. That evening, you eat near the fire. The stew is thin again, but with greens now. Wild nettles gathered near the meltwater streams. They sting your fingers when picked, but taste of something green and real when boiled. You slurp them slowly, savouring their bitterness like a promise. After dinner, your mother brings out a bundle from the chest, the seed cloth, tied shut since harvest. You run your fingers over the linen, rough and cold. Inside are the dried kernels that will decide what summer tastes like. She doesn't open it yet, just sets it near the door, as if the earth needs time to sense it coming. That night, your sister lies beside you, without shivering. The blanket feels thicker somehow, even though nothing has changed. You lie awake, listening to the trickle of thaw from the roof, the crackle of the fire, the rhythm of your own breath. Winter isn't over, but it's losing. Winter doesn't end all at once. It fades in layers, quietly, like breath on a mirror. You feel it less in the air than in the bones. A gentler waking, where your joints creak a little less each morning, where your thoughts stretch past the present, brushing against the idea of a future. Today the ground is soft enough to leave prints. Your boots sink slightly with each step, the mud clinging with a stubbornness winter never had. You walk carefully toward the fields, a woven sack slung over your shoulder, filled with broken tools, scraps of cord, and hope. The fields still sleep. They're grey, matted, and littered with frozen weeds. But beneath the surface, life stirs. The smell tells you, a deep, earthy scent of thawed soil and buried roots. It's not pleasant exactly, but it's real, and that makes it welcome. You kneel to clear a patch, using your fingers like a rake. Cold bites your skin, but you persist. Each clump of dead grass pulled aside feels like the beginning of a sentence. Your brother chases a chicken that wandered from the pen. His laughter is sharp, sudden. You blink, not because it's loud, but because you haven't heard that sound in so long. It surprises you. Your mother's at the washing stone, scrubbing linens with her whole body. Her sleeves are rolled to the elbow, her forearms red and chapped. Yet she moves with rhythm now, not fatigue. When she looks up and sees you watching, she smiles, the full kind, teeth and all. Inside, your sister braids her hair. She does it without help, mirrorless, fingers working with quiet determination. The cough still lingers, but less. Her voice comes back in whispers. You overhear her asking your mother if she can walk to the edge of the village tomorrow. You hope so. The reeve posts a notice outside the well. First planting to begin next week. All hands. The villagers gather in knots, reading aloud for those who can't. The murmurs ripple like wind in grass. Later, old Martin passes your door and nods. Not the grim tilt of winter, but a real acknowledgement. His coat is patched with new thread, mismatched but clean. That afternoon, you mend a section of the animal fence. The wood is swollen and soft, brittle from months of frost. You brace the post with rope, hammer it into the soil with your heel. Every strike leaves a print. When your father returns from checking the upper fields, he looks 10 pounds lighter, not because of hunger, but that hasn't changed, but because of the way he stands. His shoulders no longer bow toward the earth, they lift just slightly. Dinner is quiet, not out of weariness, but peace. The stew is familiar, lentils again, but someone dropped in a scrap of cheese, dried and crumbling. It melts into the broth, adding richness. You eat slowly, savoring each bite. Afterward, your mother opens the chest and pulls out the spring tunics. They're rough and sun-bleached from last year, but they still hold the scent of dry days. She lays them out to be inspected, letting the fabric breathe. Your sister touches the hem of her old one. "Still fits," she whispers. Later that night, you sit beside the fire. The flames are modest yet steady. You don't huddle now. You sit apart, comfortably. The air in the cottage is still cold, but it doesn't clutch at you like it used to. It lets you be. Outside, the wind stirs the thatch gently. No snow follows. You close your eyes and feel your body sinking into the straw mat, not from exhaustion, but from ease. Tomorrow will be work, and the next day more. But not the desperate kind. The kind that builds something. The soil is still stubborn. You kneel by the edge of the southern field at first light, the horizon awash in pale blue. The sun doesn't rise, not yet, but leans behind the clouds as if peeking out, curious but hesitant. You grip the short-handled hoe with one hand, fingers still stiff from sleep. The other hand rests on your knee, bones creaking in a way you've come to expect each morning. Your brother is beside you, humming softly as he pulls weeds that have dared to return. You don't know the tune. Maybe he made it up. His hands are red but quick. He's been eager for this day, for the chance to do something that isn't survival. Today is sowing day, not a feast, not quite a celebration, but something like a rite, a step from stillness into motion. And in this world, that feels close to joy. Around you, others work, bent figures spaced out across the land like knots in a blanket. A slow rhythm begins, not coordinated but shared. The scrape of tools, the sigh of lifting soil, the occasional low grunt when a rock refuses to yield. Your father marks the rows with a stick tied with string. Each groove is shallow, careful, spaced just so. Not too wide, and the land is greedy and shallow. It gives little and takes much. But still you offer it something. You reach into the seed pouch, slung across your shoulder. The cloth is old, its corners fraying. Inside the barley seeds feel dry, hard. Tiny promises held in the palm of your hand. You let a few fall into the trench. They sound like whispers against the soil. You cover them with your fingers, and gently, as though tucking a child into bed. The wind carries the scent of earth now, not rot, not frost, just soil. Dark, damp, dense. The kind of smell you didn't realize you'd missed until it returned. It curls into your lungs and grounds you in your body. Further down the row, Greta moves slowly. Her limp is worse this year, but she's here. Her daughter walks beside her, scattering handfuls of flax. They don't speak. But Greta catches your eye once and nods. The nod means many things. We're still here. The ground is good enough. This day is ours. A bell chimes faintly from the church tower. Not a warning, not a toll, just a single note, a beginning. The priest walks the perimeter with a sprig of rosemary, flicking droplets from a wooden bowl toward the tilled rows. A ritual of blessing. He mutters a prayer with each pass. You can't hear the words, but you know them. Bless the seed, bless the hand, bless the hunger, and the land. You say it silently as you work. By midday, the sun has found enough courage to break through the clouds. It spills over the fields in pale gold, making the frost-rimed grass at the edge shimmer like silver threads. You stop for a moment, straightening your back, rolling your shoulders. The ache settles deeper, but you don't mind. Pain that comes from purpose is different than the pain of simply enduring. Your mother brings a pot of water wrapped in cloth, warmed by the hearth, barely, but better than cold. You sip it from a clay cup passed hand to hand. It tastes of wood smoke and clay and safety. Your sister stays home today, still not strong enough to walk the field. But when you returned earlier for the seed cloth, you saw her by the fire, carving a little spindle from a scrap of wood. Her fingers worked slowly but surely. Her hair was braided, her cheeks flushed. She's mending like the earth. After the water break, you continue row by row. The work is slow and methodical. Each motion quiets the mind. Dig, scatter, cover, step, repeat. The rhythm holds you. It reminds you of a chant, or of prayers spoken with breath instead of voice. In the next row over, your brother hums louder. His song becomes a tune. Others begin to echo. Its words, just melody. It rises and falls, simple and strong. It sounds like planting. It sounds like surviving. As the sun begins to lower, the last rows are finished. The priest circles one more time, this time silent, tracing a shape in the air with his fingers. A cross, a circle, a gesture old as hunger. Your father stands back and looks over the field. He says nothing, just rests his hand on your shoulder. The pressure is firm. He doesn't have to say he's proud. Back home, your mother has prepared broth again, with greens from the stream's edge and slivers of root vegetables salvaged from last year's stores. The bowl steams in your hands. You sip it slowly. It tastes brighter today. Not rich, not yet, but expectant. Your sister eats her share, then asks if she can walk to the edge of the field tomorrow. Your mother gives her a long look, then nods. If the sun returns, she says. Your father hangs his tools by the door, wiping them clean, each one placed just so. He hums, not quite a song, but close, the kind of sound people make when the worst has passed. That night, you sit by the fire with your hands open, palms up, resting on your knees. The flame dances slowly, casting shadows along the walls. Your brother sleeps nearby, curled into a blanket shaped like a nest. Outside, the sky is dark but not cold. The wind has softened to a breeze, moving gently through the trees like breath. You close your eyes and see the rows in your mind. Lines carved into the earth, each filled with seeds small as teeth. You picture them nestled in the dirt, resting, waiting. You picture them waking. You wake to birdsong. Not many, just one. A lark, maybe, trilling uncertainly from somewhere in the hedgerow beyond the goat pen. It's thin, hesitant, but unmistakable. And for a long moment you simply lie still on your straw mat, letting the sound wash through you like warm water. Spring hasn't arrived, not truly, but something has shifted. The air smells of wet bark and turned earth. And the light, when it creeps through the cracks in the shutters, carries the faintest golden edge. Your sister is already awake, sitting cross-legged by the fire, combing her hair with careful fingers. She looks different now, not fully well. She still moves slowly, and her hands tremble slightly when she ties her braid. But she looks like herself again. And that alone feels like a prayer answered. Your mother packs a cloth bundle with dried herbs and roots, tucking it into a basket for a neighbor who's just fallen ill. Not as bad, she says, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. But we've learned. She touches your sister's forehead gently. We've learned. You nod and walk with her halfway down the path. The village is busy in its quiet way. Roofs are being patched, tools oiled, stones moved from the planting fields. There's still mud everywhere, of course, and you slip more than once on the walk back, but no one's complaining. Everyone remembers the days when there wasn't even a reason to be outside. The church bell rings 3 times mid-morning. A feast day, though no one will actually feast. St. Mildred, you think, the gentle protector. She was known for walking barefoot across thorned fields without bleeding, a story your sister always loved. You light a single candle in her honor and place it on the shelf above the hearth. The wax is cracked and pale, but the flame burns clean. The priest passes through later, leaving behind a carved wooden cross wrapped in twine. For the door, he says, to mark the house. You hang it with reverence, not because you think it keeps sickness out. You're not sure anything can, but because it tells the world you're still here. Your brother finds a frog near the stream and carries it around all afternoon in a cup. He names it Gregory, feeds it scraps of boiled root, and insists it can predict weather. You indulge the fantasy. His laughter is bright and echoing. In the early evening, you gather with others by the communal oven, not to bake this time, just to talk. It's been weeks since the villagers spoke in groups without sharing bad news or whispered fears. This gathering is quieter, softer, the kind of gathering that breathes. Old Martin retells a story from 3 winters ago, the time the snow got so deep they used a door for a sled. You've heard it a dozen times, but you listen again. His voice is gravel, but the rhythm is familiar. Greta brings out a jar of pickled cabbage. It smells awful. Everyone eats it anyway. Later, as dusk begins to stretch across the fields, you help your father repair the fence near the east side. He holds one post steady while you lash it with fresh cord. They'll be planting onions here, he says, mostly to himself. They do better in ground that remembers cold. You look out over the fields, dark and furrowed. The barley is hidden beneath the surface, asleep. But you can almost feel it breathing. When you return home, the fire is already lit and the stew is simmering. Your sister hums softly as she stirs, using the wooden spoon your grandfather carved. She lifts the pot, strong enough now to do it without flinching. That night, the family sits close, not from cold, but from habit. You sip broth that tastes of nettle and wild garlic and something more, something warming. Before sleep, your mother recites a prayer to the Virgin Mary, hands folded over her lap. Your brother echoes her last words, then falls asleep, mid-sentence. You lie beside your sister, watching the candle burn low. The room smells of smoke and clean wood. The walls are patched. The wind outside is calm. And in the stillness you feel it again. The quiet miracle of survival. The ordinary, sacred task of living through what once seemed unlivable. The smell of sap is in the air. You first notice it while walking past the old alder tree behind your cottage. There, running in a slow, sticky thread down its bark, the amber liquid glistens in the soft spring light. It smells faintly sweet, like something lost returning. You touch it gently, marveling at the way the tree has come back to life. It never looked dead, not quite. But now it breathes again, and in a way so do you. The thaw has continued. What snow remains clings only to the darkest corners, where shadow lives longest. Elsewhere, green shoots poke through mud and last year's leaves. The world isn't blooming, not yet, but it is nudging toward colour, toward motion. The goats have more energy now. They pace their pen, nudging each other playfully, shaking off the long stillness. Your father lets them out to graze just beyond the fence, where the grass is stubborn but starting to stretch. Your brother chases them barefoot, laughing when one knocks him into a patch of damp moss. Your mother scolds gently from the doorway, though you see the corner of her mouth twitch upward. She can't quite hide the joy anymore. Even your sister, wrapped in her shawl, walks slowly to the edge of the garden plot. She stands for a long time, watching the field, arms crossed against the wind. Her eyes look toward the spot where the first shoots of barley will rise. She says nothing, but when you join her, she takes your hand. "You think we'll eat it?" she asks. You nod. "Not soon, but yes." She squeezes your fingers and you both stand there, silent, feeling the breeze pass over you like a whisper from the future. This afternoon is for cleaning, not just survival cleaning, but the kind that feels like setting the world right. The hearth is scrubbed, ash collected for the compost pile. The straw is turned, beaten, and replaced. Your mother boils linens in a pot outside, then lays them across the bushes to dry. Your father oils the hinges of the door. "Spring squeaks louder than winter," he says. You laugh, not because the joke is funny, but because the sound feels right in your throat again. Inside, you sort old clothes. Your brother tries on a tunic that once belonged to your cousin. It hangs down to his knees, but he twirls in it anyway, delighted. You help stitch the hem while your sister works beside you, reweaving a sock from last year's wool scraps. Later, the priest visits again, this time not with warning or blessing, but simply to talk. He accepts a cup of warm cider, made from the last pressed apples, and tells a story of Saint Godelieva, who spoke to bees. Your mother lights a candle in thanks after he leaves, placing it beside the windowsill, where the sun now lingers just a little longer. By evening, you notice the difference in light. It holds on later now, just a few more minutes each day. Long enough to finish washing, long enough to walk to the far field and back without a torch. Dinner is plain but filling, mashed peas with wild garlic, bread softened in broth. Your sister eats a full bowl. She sighs afterward, rubbing her belly like a well-fed lord. Your father raises his mug in mock ceremony. "To the peas," he says solemnly. Everyone laughs. After the meal, you sit together on the floor, not out of necessity, but because it's warm and the fire still glows. Your mother takes out her spindle, spinning thread with slow, rhythmic movements. Your brother leans against her side, eyes fluttering shut before the thread wraps halfway. Your sister speaks of planting flowers near the door. "For the bees," she says. When they come back, you promise to help. Later that night, you walk out alone. The stars are visible, faint but sharp, and the air carries a warmth you almost don't trust. The fields stretch quiet under the moon, lines furrowed like sleeping faces. Somewhere in the dark, a fox yips, a bird answers. Life stirs at the edges of the world. You breathe in deep. It's not over. Hunger still waits in the corners. Illness could still return, and the cold could come back once more. But right now, the land breathes, the people breathe, and so do you. The first thing you notice when you wake is the light. It creeps across the mat like a spill of milk, gentle and full. Not the weak glow of winter, and this is bolder, rounder. The kind of light that stays, that warms not just the skin but the breath. The air in the cottage is still cool, but the corners no longer hold their shadows tightly. The hearth glows even before a fire is lit, warmed by yesterday's sun perhaps, or the slow accumulation of surviving days. You rise slowly, joints less stiff now, muscles bending without complaint. Your sister is already by the fire, feeding it a small handful of kindling. Her cough hasn't come at all this morning. That alone feels like a hymn. Your mother hums again as she folds the bedding. Not the mournful sort she sang in deep winter, but something lighter. It skips. Your brother, still rubbing sleep from his eyes, sways slightly to its rhythm. You eat the last of the oatcakes with wild greens pulled from near the stream. The flavor is bright, sharp. It stings the tongue, but you don't mind. Even bitterness feels welcome when it means life is growing again. By midday, the village is fully awake. Children race along the thawing roadways, chasing a straw doll tossed between them. The thatchers are at work on a roof near the center, voices raised in laughter. You pass old Martin with his cart, this time not filled with eggs, but with bundles of dried rushes and nettle twine. He grunts at you, which, or in his language, practically a poem. You stop by the field, now soft beneath your feet. See, the barley hasn't sprouted yet, but the soil no longer clings like a curse. Your father points to a spot where the earth is cracked slightly. "First sign," he says. "The roots move before we see them." That afternoon, you and your sister walk into the woods. It's a slow walk, careful, with your arm around her waist for support. She insists she can manage alone, but doesn't shake you off when your fingers stay at her elbow. The forest is brighter now. Sunlight spears through the branches, casting golden pools on the wet earth. Moss is vivid, birdsong is steady. The entire place hums as if remembering its purpose. You gather small green shoots and a handful of bark to boil for tea. She picks wildflowers, 2 purple, 1 white, and weaves them into her braid. "Do I look like a feast day?" she asks, and for the first time you laugh until your eyes sting. Back home, the neighbors gather again, not for grief, not for necessity, but for news and stories. Greta brings a honey cake saved from her winter store. It's dry, but no one complains. It tastes of sunlight and effort. The priest joins, robes patched, but voice strong. He speaks of the coming Ascension feast, of cleansing, of rebuilding the stone path that leads to the chapel. You agree to help with the lifting. Someone brings out a fiddle. a crude one carved from a broken chair back, and someone else taps rhythm on a cooking pot. Feet move, not a dance, not fully, but close. Movement for its own sake. The joy is not loud, it is not giddy, it's quieter, steadier, like a river you forgot ran beneath the ice. That evening, your mother mends the curtain near the door. You help, holding the fabric as she threads her needle. Her fingers are quick now, sure. You remember when they shook, you don't say so. Your father returns late, from walking the southern boundary, cloak damp, but eyes clear. "All paths open," he says, and sits down with a long exhale. After dinner, you light 2 candles, not for light, not even for prayer, just because you can. Your sister places her wildflowers in a cup on the shelf. "They'll wilt," she says. "Everything does," you reply, "but not all at once." She nods, settles down near the hearth and curls beneath the blanket. You watch her fall asleep slowly, mouth soft, lashes resting on cheeks pink with new sun. And then you step outside one last time. The air holds no frost. The stars are sharp above and the grass is slick with dew, not ice. You breathe deep, the scent of green things, of mud and ash and growth. Winter has retreated, not vanished, it never truly does, but it no longer defines the shape of your days. Inside, the fire burns steady, the roof holds, the family sleeps, and tomorrow there will be more to mend, more to plant, more to sing. The mornings arrive easier now. There is no dramatic moment of change, no trumpet of warmth or sudden bloom, but a gradual softening, like ice giving way beneath a steady sun, like hunger giving way to routine. You rise not out of urgency but rhythm. Your body knows when it's time. You stretch, listening to the wood groan softly underfoot. The air in the cottage carries a damp warmth, not thick, not summer, but enough to loosen your breath. You step to the window and crack the shutter. The breeze that greets you is cool, but kind. Outside, the fields are beginning to colour. The barley has sprouted in slender rows, green spears poking up like promises. You can't help but smile, just a little seeing them. They look too delicate to matter. But you know better now, it's always the soft things that endure. Your sister hums as she folds the blankets. She moves slowly, carefully, but she's upright. Her hair is tied back with a bit of twine. Her cough is rare now. A ghost of a sound, not a shadow of death. Your mother sweeps the hearth with long, even strokes. She no longer rushes. She no longer mutters. Her eyes are clearer. Her voice, when she speaks, has lost its edge of vigilance. Your brother carries firewood without stumbling. He whistles to the chickens and names each one, as though giving them identities might make them lay more eggs. You let him believe it. Breakfast is thin porridge with dried berries, saved, rationed, soaked overnight. It's sweet enough to make your sister grin. Your father carves a spoon handle while you eat, hands moving slowly, knife biting into the wood with practiced care. Each curl falls to the floor like a shaved layer of winter. Afterward, you walk the boundary again, this time alone. The thaw has revealed old things, tools lost in the snow, tracks from animals long gone, even a scrap of woven cloth caught on a bramble. The land is like a book cracked open after months in the cold, pages stained but legible. You pause by the stream, now running free and clear. It babbles gently, a lullaby in motion. You kneel, splash your face, let the cold bite you just enough to feel it. You watch a beetle scurry across a stone. It insists on itself. At the edge of the far field, you plant the last row of peas. Your hands move without thought now. Scoop, drop, cover. It's a kind of prayer. one the land understands. By midday, the wind shifts, warmer, gentler. You see your sister walking just beyond the garden with a basket gathering dandelions. She holds them as though they were gold. That evening the cottage is full of small sounds. The whistle of boiling water, the creak of the bench under your father's weight, the flick of thread through cloth as your mother repairs a frayed hem. Your brother's voice rises in a lullaby you half remember, half invent. The stew tastes of garlic and nettle and a single egg stirred in at the last moment. Your sister eats a full bowl. She wipes it clean with a crust of bread and leans back with a sigh that sounds like satisfaction. The fire burns low, but not out. Before bed, your father sits quietly with his carving again. He hands you a small figure, rough, barely shaped, but recognizably a bird. To hang by the door, he says, to watch for spring. You tie it with twine and place it near the threshold. Its wings are uneven, its beak is blunt, but it stands. You fall asleep under the soft weight of the patched blanket, your sister breathing evenly beside you. The scent of wood smoke and wild onion fills the room. Outside, the moon rises over fields that no longer feel abandoned. And in the deep quiet of night, there is no fear. No frost clawing at the walls, no hunger gnawing at the belly. Only the hush of slow breath, of warm skin, of tired hearts that have learned to beat again. Spring is not a season, it is a survival, a softness after stone. A story whispered by seeds beneath the earth and heard at last by those